Hello folks, I've got a bit of a different one for you today. I'm on the launch of the Omoda 9 and the weather's atrocious and I don't have too long with the car. So I'm going to do everything in this video from this position and I'm going to show you some footage over the top and we'll make the best of a less than ideal weather situation. I've literally just set foot in this car and there are some big headline things that I'm going to talk you through as we go, but the first one I have to mention is the quality of this interior. I was not expecting this, particularly when I tell you the price point in a sec, but it's very luxurious in here. It's got everything as standard, so it comes fully loaded. There's one trim level and it's 45 grand. Now, to put that into context, a lot of people will be saying, well, 45 grand is a lot of money for a car. But to put that into context, we're talking about a plug-in hybrid with 93 miles of all-electric range that's got adaptive suspension. It's got heated and cooled seats that recline. They're vegan leather, but very nice quality vegan leather. It's got all manner of features that are completely standard on this car, and 45 grand is about the same price as I think a base spec Tiguan. So it seems well priced, and the level of quality of the interior is way beyond expectation. You've got a 660 litre boot. There's not really too much clever going on with it, and you don't have a huge amount of space underneath the boot floor, but 660 litres is already very generous. And there's tons of rear legroom. I'm not going to show you that in this video for the reasons I mentioned before, but there is loads of rear legroom, so you could easily get 3 adults in the back of this with no problem. So that being said, a lot of this review is going to be about the way the car drives and the way it performs. On that performance front, we've got 449 PS of power, which is not insignificant, and that gets you down the road from 0 to 60 in under 5 seconds. And one of the interesting things that the guys from Omoda have just told us is that basically the price to power ratio is £100 per horsepower, and they've said the rest of the market tends to be around about 130 plus. So if you're looking at a car in terms of its performance value for money, that's not too bad. What I'm more interested to see is how the hybrid system works in this car, because it is a very clever one. So it's got a three-way hybrid transmission, and that's run by, I think, a quad-core processing unit, so it's using a lot of brain power to actually do its job. And one of those transmission functions is all electric. One is basically the balance mode, so it will go between electric and hybrid as need be. And then the third one is regen. And what one of the PR guys just told me is that yesterday he drove one of these down and drove it in regen mode for most of the way, because he wanted to have the car with a full battery on arrival at this drive day, and he got 40 MPG whilst driving it in regen mode. And the regen mode's very strong. That's an interesting indicator noise. The regen mode's really strong, so it's putting in excess of 200 horsepower back into regen into the battery. Now, throughout this video I'm going to drive the car in just its standard hybrid mode, and what that will do is, by default, when you're at low speed, when you're around town, etc., it's going to run the car in EV as much as possible, and then when the time's right it will use both sources of power, and then at times it will just go over to pure combustion. And they say the car's total range is 700 miles if you combine that all-electric range with a full tank of fuel. I'll put the size of the fuel tank up on the screen for you so you can sort of judge that for yourself. But I think for this video I'm just going to let the car do its thing. I'm just going to drive it in hybrid mode the whole time and just let the car do its thing, and we'll see what kind of fuel economy we get in the real world. And quite often once that battery depletes, you're left with a car that's delivering fairly poor fuel economy. And I think because of the clever way that this one works, it's never going to let the battery fully deplete. The car comes, again, as standard, because it doesn't have options, with a Sony stereo system. And one of the clever things about that is that it's got speakers in the headrest, and that means that in theory your passengers in the back and you in the front should be able to listen to two different things without one disturbing the other. It also means you've got some level of privacy if you want to take a phone call while you're driving. How that would work in reality would have to be saved for a full review of the car, really, but in theory it sounds like a very clever design. And I think that's a common thread with this car. Lots of it feels like a very clever design. Now, this car's got all-wheel drive, it's got adaptive suspension. I've just got it in the mid-level at the moment, which is probably the right place to be with UK roads. You can go into sports mode. That will give you access to all of those horsepowers, and of course give you access to a stiffer suspension, but I don't think it particularly suits our roads. So this mid-level is probably about right. It's very, very quiet in this cabin. It's extremely well insulated from things like road noise and wind noise. I'm using an external mic today rather than my usual clip-on affair, so you might get more background noise than normal in this video, but I think you might actually find it quite quiet, because it is really a nice sedate drive. Once we get out onto the sort of faster roads, that may change, but certainly pootling around in the country here, it's very quiet and very comfortable. We've got a nice big driver information display, which gives us all the information we could possibly want or need, really, in one easy place. You've got a Tesla style graphic of the car and the car in front, and the car's coming the other way, just showing you that those onboard computers are tracking everything that's going on. The car's got self-park, it's got 360 cameras, top-down cameras. The quality of those is brilliant. It's using a Snapdragon processor, and it's using it very well because it's all very clear and very snappy, pardon the pun, with Snapdragon. I've got a heated steering wheel on at the moment. You know, all the creature comforts are here, and they've put together really quite a compelling case to consider one of these. I'm really impressed by the car and the level of kit so far. They've also got a very clear head-up display, which is not dissimilar to the one you'll find in Hyundai Kia vehicles, and all in all, it just feels packed with tech and very good quality. In terms of physical controls, whilst a lot of it's screen based, you've also got capacitive touch on the steering wheel, and they are all clearly labelled. I mean, I much prefer buttons than haptics and capacitive touch things and what have you, but they're all clearly labelled and they all work, and they're not particularly fiddly to use. We've then got these lovely knurled aircon controls down here, so that's nice to have. And as we know, many have moved away from that, and some have even gone to dreaded slidey touchpad things that I don't like. So I think, even for a dinosaur like me, this is an actually half reasonable mix of physical and sort of touch type controls. The only thing I would have liked to have seen is a physical volume control for the car. You have got volume controls on here, but I just like a little knob that you can press to mute and turn it down, turn it up, around about here, and we don't have that. Aside from that, it's a very good cabin, and this car is extremely well spec'd. It's got every bit of tech you could possibly want on this kind of car, and possibly some you didn't even know you wanted. So Omoda is a Chinese brand. They're part of Cherry Motors, that's also behind JQ, which is another fairly recent entrant to the UK market. And so far, they've done very well with their sales targets. They've readjusted their sales targets several times, in fact. And I I think in April, I believe it was April, they sold nearly 4,000 units in that month alone, which, to give you some context, for some brands that would be a really strong year's sales performance, and they've done that in a month. It is doing quite well with fleet. Obviously we've seen some good lease deals in some of my lease deal videos on Omodas, particularly the Omoda 5 and the E5, and I think it's now out into Motability as well, but I'm not 100% sure on that. And they've taken the decision to work via dealerships rather than go down the direct sales route that so many are doing now. A lot of people just want that dealership experience. For me, I think each to their own. I actually really like the direct sales approach myself, but a lot of people don't, and they don't want it, and they want to see a dealership on the corner. So they're in with some big dealership groups, so you might see an Omoda popping up where you are very soon, or indeed one may have already popped up. So you do have that sort of hands-on dealer experience if you want it. And I have talked a bit about the RRP of this car. Obviously, if you want to lease one instead, click on the link in the video description to Lease Loco, and it will show you all the latest lease prices on one of these as we speak. It is brand new to market at the time I'm recording this video, and I know Lease Loco are only just loading the deals onto the system, so you might want to let it breathe for a little bit to see what happens with the pricing. But sometimes with a new car, and particularly from a new manufacturer, sometimes you will find that they do something outstanding initially just to get people used to the car. Some manufacturers just want to see their cars on the road because they know that will give people a bit of confidence, and people will go and get into the one themselves if they've seen it enough times. That happens a lot, so you may find there are some good early lease deals, and I know they've done things like interest-free PCPs and things on some of the cars in the past. And I think because their initial sales figures have been so good, you know, I'm here at the launch of this one and they're already talking about the next one that's going to be coming along. No details as yet, but you know, Omoda clearly sees the UK as a big market for them. In fact, Omoda is looking at building a UK R&D facility so that they can make their cars particularly refined for our roads. They understand that, you know, the UK car buyer is a different beast. Our roads are a bit different from elsewhere, so they want to make sure that they're adapting as well as possible to the UK and our driving conditions and our consumers. And this all sounds very positive. So we're now on some slightly better roads, and this car can definitely push on, and it can handle itself in the corners. It has got quite a nice stance for an SUV, and that might be a weird thing to say, but it doesn't sit particularly, I don't know, when you look at it from the outside, it seems to be very comfortable in its position. It's not kind of sitting up like this, and I think you feel that on the road. Also, the fact you've got the battery gives you a nice low centre of gravity, and the car, despite its size and weight, doesn't feel as heavy as it should, in my personal opinion. You know, you can really push on in the bends and have a little bit of fun with it. It's actually quite an enjoyable thing to drive. I think it's definitely comfort first, however, and that's not a bad thing. It is an SUV, you know, it's not an Ioniq 5N. We're not going to be taking this sideways around a track. It definitely feels like a car that they're trying to attract the premium customer with, and that's always going to be difficult with a new entrant to any market, and particularly one coming from China because of people's preconceptions. But it's really quite impressive what they've done, because they've taken what's below entry level for some of those brands, or certainly entry level for those brands, and put something forward that seems eminently more impressive. There will be lots of German manufacturers that look at this car and look at the price and think, oh dear. And yes, it's going to be some time before, you know, the brand becomes recognised and people learn to live with it, all the rest of it to that extent. So you're not going to get droves of people coming out of their BMWs and Audis and Mercedes and getting into an Omoda. But from what I've seen here so far, maybe they should. And all this looks good on paper, but is it going to be reliable? Is it going to last you for years? Well, it's got a 7-year, 100,000 mile warranty for the main car, and the battery's got an 8-year warranty. So hopefully that puts mind at ease for some people. Regular viewers of my channel will know that my opinions are not bought and sold. They're always honest. And honestly, I expected a fairly generic large SUV, perhaps one that was slightly nicer with some impressive numbers attached to it. I didn't expect something that was genuinely as good as this is. And it's really surprising. Perhaps I shouldn't be surprised, but I really am. It's very, very good. Folks, I hope you've enjoyed this rambling video. It is what it is. The weather's been atrocious. I haven't been able to do a lot of stuff sort of outside with the car, just simply because of time and weather. Funnily enough, it's cleared up now just as I'm returning the car. But I hope you've enjoyed it nonetheless. I've taken in a massive amount of information and then immediately got in the car and immediately started filming. So it might not be the best video you'll watch on the Omoda 9, but I hope there's some insight in there for you that you find useful, and I hope you choose to subscribe to the channel. Don't forget, if you want to look at lease prices on one of these, there's a link to Lease Loco in the video description and a QR code popping up on the screen for you. Thanks ever so much for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Huge thanks to all my channel members for your continued support. I really do appreciate it.